Good day, everyone, and welcome to the discussion of Chapter 3 of our feasibility study, which is the marketing aspect or the market study. Before I proceed, I would like to request all my students to please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and after watching the full video, please comment done. Chapter 3 is a very important aspect of feasibility study because the pieces of information that we're going to derive here will serve as a basis in making our decision whether to pursue with the project or not. And also, the reliability of our entire feasibility study will depend on the reliability of our market study. So we should not take for granted what we are including on the contents or in our chapter 3, and we have to provide factual or accurate information on our chapter 3. We are preparing the market study in order to determine the supply and the demand for our product and more or less establish the selling price of our product. So in this chapter also, we're going to establish the marketing program that the company will adopt in order to sell the product plus the corresponding projected sales. The same with the rest of the chapters. Chapter 3 will start with an introduction. So again, it may be a one paragraph consisting of 3 sentences wherein you're going to write there the purpose of the chapter and another one, the different subsections of the chapter. The first section of chapter 3 is the target market description. You have to analyze first the nature of your product, if it is a consumer good or industrial good, in order to properly identify your target market. So of course, if you will be producing consumer goods, so you have your set of customers or consumers with you as your target market. Then if you will be producing industrial goods or goods that will be used by other businesses, so you have to clearly identify the set of businesses or the industry that you're going to target on your target market description. So if we're talking about consumer goods, so you have to clearly define your market in terms of their geographical location. So you could identify if it will be the consumers from Luzon or in Region 3 or in the province of Bataan or in Balanga City. And then kung meron tayong mga age requirement dyan sa mga consumer products natin, yung target nating gender. So kung medyo pricey yung product natin or sa tingin natin meron tayong required na income or economic status ng family. So clearly define it also on your target market description. Then if we are producing product intended for household or family, you could identify also the family size, or kung necessary ang educational status or educational attainment at employment status, depende nga doon sa product natin kung sino yung tatargetin natin. And the population size of the vicinity, so we might as well include them on our target market description. So, ang purpose natin dito, kailangan talaga tayong maging specific sino talaga yung target market natin. Because when we talk about household, when we talk about family, napakalawak niyan. So that pertains to all families, that pertains to all household. So kung ang product natin, let us say, is intended for the upper class, intended for the elite, or intended dun sa mga sinasabi nating nasa laylayan ng lipunan, kaya dapat mas specify natin or maging specific talaga tayo dun sa target market natin. Okay, then another one, syempre pagdating kunwari sa age group, let us say, ang product natin ay milk, no? Milk products. So kaya nga mapapansin nyo ngayon, ang ginawa ng Nestle Philippines and other manufacturers of milk, nakategorize na yung mga product nila in accordance with the age group. Meron silang pang infant, meron silang pang toddler, meron silang pang adult. O para yung product nila hindi lang nakakonsentrate sa infant, nagbigay na din sila nag-produce na din sila ng product intended for different age group. But in case yung product natin, sa tingin natin, it's just good for infant, so ibig sabihin, pag ginawa natin yung target market description natin, specify natin yung age natin na let us say from 0 to 1 year old or the specific group that we are targeting. So, ganun ang gagawin natin sa target market description. Then, let us say we are manufacturing a perfume or cologne na ang target natin ay mga female. So, we have to clearly identify that gender that we are targeting are the female. So, in case ang target naman natin ay mga businesses or industry, so identify natin ano itong mga businesses na to na kung saan sa kanila natin ibebenta yung product natin or let us say a specific industry that we are targeting. Next section of our chapter 3 is the demand and supply analysis. Then under this section, there are subsections which are demand analysis, supply analysis, and the supply and demand gap. So let's have them one by one. So you have to connect what you have included on your target market description with the demand analysis that you're going to make. So again, in determining your target market or in having your target market description, you have to be specific kung sino talaga yung ating target market, kung sino talaga yung ating target consumers. So, kung tayo ay magpo-produce ng mga industrial goods, anong sector or anong industry yung talagang tatargetin natin. Kasi doon tayo kukuha ng information na ilalagay natin sa ating demand analysis. In demand and supply analysis, we're talking about figures here. So we will be starting off with the demand analysis. So in demand analysis, we have to present the total demand or sa Tagalog yung pangkalahatang pangangailangan doon sa produkto natin. So doon sa target market description natin, na-define natin yung geographical area na covered natin. Kaya if we're talking about demand analysis, we must present sales, consumption, or usage ng product natin. Sa example, yung product natin ay harina. Gaano kadami ba yung consumption or sales or usage ng harina? Or gaano kadami yung binibili ng mga bakery sa buong Bataan para ma-determine natin yung total demand. Okay, then another one. Ngayon, malakas sa konsumo ng bond paper or typewriting ang mga teachers natin. So when we talk about demand for papers, mataas yung demand ng papers natin. So kailangan nating malaman gaano kadami ba yung naging consumption or usage ng papers na yan for the past 5 years. So let us say again, if your target is Luzon, or Region 3, or let us say buong Pilipinas, kailangan makuha natin yung data pang buong Pilipinas. So, another one, let us say your product is a coffee. So, ang kape, so syempre, hindi naman tayo bibili ng kape na pang sarili lang natin. So, dito sa Pilipinas, ang setup natin, pag nag-grocery yung parent natin or yung mother natin, para na yun sa buong pamilya. Kaya if you want to get the demand for the consumption of coffee, pwede nating tignan kung ilan ba yung number of household or families based sa iba't ibang government agencies natin. Let us say the population, the number of household, makikita natin yan sa Philippine Statistics Authority Office. So meron mga silang mga specific or meron silang mga breakdown pa kung ilan sa pamilya ang employed, ano yung mga age bracket na nasa pamilya, ilan ang miyembro ng pamilya. So, nadidetail yan sa pagsisensus ng PSA natin. Then, let us say we are targeting different businesses. So, nandiyan ang DTI na pwede natin kuhanan ng data kung ilan ba yung, let us say, ilan ang canteen, ilan ang bakery, ilan ang restaurant, ilan ang parlor sa buong Bataan, ilan ang nagbebenta ng mga pasulubong products. So, pwede nating makuha yung data dyan para malaman natin yung demand sa produkto natin. And then also, sa internet, para hindi, it is impossible for us to get information directly from the office of NEDA. Baka may ini-issue sila sa kanilang website na consumption ng iba't ibang klaseng produkto sa buong taon, or let us say sa Luzon or sa province ng Bataan. So, makakatulong yan sa demand analysis natin. Let us say sa NEDA, baka meron silang i-provide na data, ilang grams ba ng coffee ang nakoconsume sa loob ng isang taon, ilang toneladang asukal ba ang nakoconsume, diba? Ilang kilos ba ng harina. So, doon natin makikita yung demand analysis. So, let us say mga soft drinks yung naiisip yung product, gaano ba kalaki, kadami yung naging consumption nila for the past 5 years. So that is how you do the demand analysis. So kailangan nating ma-establish yung pangangailangan sa produkto natin or yung naging consumption or usage sa product natin for the past 5 years. To continue with the demand analysis, so after nating makuha yung demand for the past 5 years, so ang gagawin naman natin, we're going to make a projection of the demand or consumption for the next 5 years using a forecasting technique. So I will be creating another video in order for you to learn how to make a forecast for your demand and supply. So, ang kailangan muna nating ma-establish kasi hindi tayo pwedeng makapag-forecast kung wala tayong historical or past data. Kaya kailangan alamin muna natin yung consumption sa product natin for the past 5 years. So, I have here few examples on how you're going to determine the demand for a particular product. If your product, let us say, is distilled drinking water, you have to determine the number of liters consumed per year. So, palagi tayong per year kapag nag-determine tayo ng demand and supply. So, for the demand for distilled drinking water, so you'll start with the number of households. So, let us say your target market is the province of Bataan. So, you have the number of households in the province of Bataan, then the average daily consumption in liters of each household. Then you multiply it by 12 in order to determine the number of liters consumed in a year. Another one, for household consumption, if we have Kamyas dishwashing liquid, so the same procedure, start tayo sa household, then average consumption in liters ng mga dishwashing liquid na yan. Then from per day, makukuha natin yung per month by multiplying it by 30, then multiply by 12 para makuha natin yung per year. So, itong dalawang products na meron akong na example ko na to, they are for family or household consumption, kaya yung computation natin ng demand nag-start doon sa number of households. Kasi ito yung mga product na hindi naman to bibilin individually, but ibibilin to per family. Next set of example for demand analysis, if your product are for infants, let us say gatas, ang product natin para sa mga babies. dun sa data na makukuha natin from the Philippine Statistics Authority, kailangan nating makuha doon kung ilan yung number ng infants, ilan yung number ng mga babies, at ilan yung average consumption nila ng gatas in grams per day, then multiply it by 30 to get the consumption in grams per month and multiply it by 12 para makuha natin ang consumption naman in grams per year. Then next example, kung meron tayong product concept na car cleaner and disinfectant, kasi since COVID ngayon, uso sa mga sasakyan na hindi lang nililinis at bina-vacuum, so pwede kang meron ngayon na parang capsule siya para siyang sort ng parang granada, no? Na inilalagay mo sa loob ng sasakyan, pero sinasanitize na nun, dinidisinfect na nun, inaabsorb na nun lahat ng mga viruses or bacteria dun sa sasakyan mo. In determining the demand, kailangan mong malaman ilan yung sasakyan, no, dito sa province ng Bataan or sa Balanga kasi sila yung mga target customers natin. And let us say, weekly yung average na paggamit ng disinfectant na yan. So you have to multiply it by 4. Kasi we have 4 weeks in a month. Then we have to multiply it by 12 to get the consumption or the demand per year. Last two examples, let us say, ang naimbento naman natin ay PPE, pero specialized tong hospital PPE natin. At ang target talaga natin ay yung mga nasa hospitals. Kasi very uncomfortable talaga yung ginagamit nilang PPE ngayon. So kung nagkaroon ka ng innovation sa PPE na to, na let us say may exhaust siya or mas refreshing siya, mas comfortable siya gamitin, or meron kang innovation na yung pagkapit ng virus doon ay mas lesser, at ang target natin ay ang mga health workers sa mga hospital. So to determine the demand, you have to compute for or to know the number of health workers sa mga hospitals dito sa Bataan. Then, yung average number of days nila in a year na naka-duty sila para makuha naman natin yung demand for the entire year. Then, kapag nag-open yung klase, alam naman natin na magkakaroon na ng mga barriers ngayon, may mga harang na ngayon yung mga upuan, yung mga lamesa para talagang hindi kumalat yung virus. Kung ikaw naman na mag-o-offer ng mga foldable, portable, mga sanitized na cubicle, hindi naman siya actually in a form na malalaking cubicle, yung parang pinapatong lang din sa ibabaw ng lamesa mo, but it's personalized kasi pwede mo siyang iuwi. So, ibig sabihin, ikaw lang ang gumagamit nun palagi. Unlike yung naka-install na doon sa classroom, doon sa table, kung sino-sino umuupo doon, kailangan mo pang isanitize. So, may option ka na magdala lang ng sarili mo na portable na pangharang. So, to determine the demand for that, you will get the number of students then within the locality. So, kung i-cater natin ay high school or senior high school and college students, doon natin madedetermine yung demand sa product natin. Another section of demand and supply analysis is the portion for our supply analysis. So in supply analysis, we have to establish now the volume of production or the supply of our product. Kasi yung dalawa na yan ang pagbabanggain natin. So demand refers, or in Tagalog, ito yung pangangailangan sa produkto natin, naging consumption sa produkto natin. And when we talk about supply, gaano karami ang na-produce ng ganyang klaseng produkto, gaano kadami ang inilabas sa merkado ng ganyang klaseng produkto natin. So, pwede nating makuha yan doon sa volume ng production ng mga companies producing the product here in the Philippines and also in other country. basta yung produkto natin ay meron tayong competitor or meron tayong nagpo-produce niyan dito sa Pilipinas or galing man sa ibang bansa, binebenta dito sa Pilipinas, kasama yan sa supply analysis natin. Okay, so example, yung product natin ay processed meat tulad ng tocino or longganisa. So talking about the companies producing tocino and longganisa, meron tayong Pampangas Best, meron tayong Marketi, meron tayong Bounty Fresh, meron tayong Swift, at iba pang mga companies na nagpa-process ng meat. Then, ano ba itong mga substitute products natin? So example, ang naiisip natin ay tocino pa rin, pero ang gagamitin natin ay dove or kalapati or let us say rabbit. So nung maliit ang supply sa manok, maliit ang supply sa pork, talagang nag-iisip tayo, di ba, ng mga substitute product. Kaya na i-introduce na yung pagkain ng kalapati, pagkain ng rabbit. Kaya kapag gumawa tayo, let us say ang product natin ay rabbit tocino, so kung wala pa namang nagpo-produce ng tocino na rabbit, so pwede natin namang indicate doon yung mga substitute products niyan tulad ng pork tocino pa rin at saka ng ating chicken tocino. Or another one, kung ang product naman natin ay fish longganisa at kung wala pa namang existing na manufacturer o nagpo-produce ng fish longganisa, so ang choice pa rin natin na ilagay sa supply analysis natin yung mga substitute natin tulad ng mga pork and chicken longganisa. Bale class, sa supply analysis natin, ang tinitignan natin dyan yung mga direct competitors natin at indirect competitors natin. Kasi at present, sila yung mga companies na nagpo-produce ng product na yan. So sabi ko nga, whether domestic or imported. But if you're going to analyze na yung product ninyo, wala pa talagang ganyan sa market, wala pa talaga kayong kakumpetensya, isipin nyo na lang yung mga substitute products niyan. So, yan ang ilalagay ninyo sa supply analysis. So, you will be including also on your supply analysis, pero doon na lang natin, no, sa mga locally produced goods na lang na ipepresent natin, yung mga companies na nagpo-produce niyan. So, include natin yung kanilang mga production capacities, dahil gusto nga nating malaman yung kanilang volume of production or yung kaya nilang isupply sa mga customers. Then, ano yung mga brand name niyan, and possible, kung available yung market shares nila, include din natin sa ating supply analysis. So the same with our demand analysis. So after getting the data, you must have at least your data of supply for the past 5 years. So kung meron din tayong makukuha sa mga government agencies tulad ng NSO, ng DTI, ng NEDA, or kung saan pa mang government agencies na mga website, yun na lang ang mga choice natin ngayon, or kung ano yung mga available resources na pwede pa para makuha natin yung production capacities nila for the past 5 years. And out of that, based doon sa nakuha nating data ng supply for the past 5 years, we could now make our projection of the supply for the next 5 years. So kagaya ng ginawa natin sa demand, meron tayong past 5 years, meron tayong next 5 years. And again, I will make a video for a computation ng forecast natin. If we will be talking about the supply analysis, kung yung mga examples ko kanina are ways to compute for the possible demand for the product, under supply analysis naman, again, we will determine yung volume ng production, yung capacity, yung pinoproduce ng mga companies na at present ay nagmamanufacture ng mga product na yun or nagpo-provide ng mga services na kagaya ng ipoprovide mong service or product na ipoproduce mo. So let us say you have coffee, meron tayong Nestle Philippines, meron tayong San Miguel Corporation dahil may San Mig Coffee sila. Then we have the Great Taste, I guess under siya ng Universal Robina Corporation. Then yung meron pa tayong mga imported na coffee. Yung production nila, iyon ang ilalagay natin sa supply analysis. Gaano ba kadami, ilang gramo or ilang toneladang kape ang sinusupply nila sa merkado. When we talk about, let us say, reusable diaper and sanitary diaper as our product, so pagdating sa supply analysis natin, sino ba yung mga nagmamanufacture ngayon ng mga diapers? So, nandiyan ang Huggies, nandiyan ang EQ, nandiyan ang Pampers, nandiyan ang Care, nandiyan yung Family. So, iyon yung mga at present nagmamanufacture ng diaper. Kaya kahit na reusable diaper ang ating product proposal, iyon yung ating mga competitors. Kaya yung kanilang volume of production, iyon ang papasok sa supply analysis natin. The same with reusable sanitary napkin. So, kailangan makuha natin yung data galing sa Modest, galing sa Sisters, galing sa Carefree, at iba pang brand ng sanitary napkin. Kung mga food flavorings naman yan, so let us say mga powder na flavorings, parang mga magic sarap, o meron tayong Ajinomoto, meron tayong Maggi, o yan yung mga nagmamanufacture ng mga food flavorings. So kung meron, pwede din nating i-consider dyan as part ng supply yung mga imported na mga food flavorings. So, kung yung atin namang mga flavorings ay in a form ng mga cubes or mga syrup, so ibang tignan naman natin yung kagaya or kakumpetensya natin or yung at present nagmamanufacture ng mga in cubes form na mga food flavorings at in liquid forms na food flavorings. At iyon ang ilalagay natin sa ating supply analysis. The last subsection of demand and supply analysis is the establishment of the supply and demand gap analysis. So this is the reason why the reliability of our feasibility study depends on our chapter 3. Kasi nga dito sa chapter 3 natin makikita if there is really a demand for our product, at dito natin makikita kung may gap ba between the supply and demand at tayo yung magiging way to bridge the gap between the supply and demand by offering our product. So we could represent it by using a table like this one. You could present the past 5 years na nakuha natin and then our projection for the next 5 years. So, nilagay ko na lang dito hanggang 2024. Pero sa gagawin ninyo, it will be for the next 5 years. You have the column for the total supply, the column for the total demand, and then the difference between the two. To get the percent of unsatisfied demand, you have the difference, then divide it by the total supply. So, looking at the supply and demand gap analysis, nakikita na natin in a clear picture kung gaano kalaki yung kakulangan dun sa supply. Kaya ibig sabihin, may pwesto pa tayo sa merkado. So, in example, sa year 2022, ang total demand ay 380. Pero ang projected supply lang ay 210. So, may kulang na 170. So, that means pwede pa tayong enter into this type of business kasi meron siyang supply and demand gap. Kulang ang supply. malaki ang demand pero kulang ang supply, and the percentage of unsatisfied demand ay aabot ng almost 81%. So that is the interpretation of this table. So nakikita kaagad natin kung meron ba yung business natin ay magkakaroon ba ng possible na market share dito sa ganitong klaseng industry. So very critical class itong portion na to ng chapter 3 natin, determination of demand, determination of supply, and supply and demand gap analysis. So, kailangan pagbasihan natin yung target market natin. So, that's why we're going to have an online class para makita natin kung ano yung target market ninyo at matulungan ko kayo kung paano nyo ba makukuha yung supply and demand ng product ninyo. Kasi iba-iba yung mga product offerings ninyo. So, just wait for the announcement kung kailan ang online class natin. Okay, so that would be all for the first part of chapter 3. Thank you for watching. Bye everyone and have a good day ahead of you.